She was a simple girl with nothing, just a strong will to survive. One morning she helped an older woman at work. But what she didn't know was that the woman was hiding a secret. A secret that could change her life forever. Who was this older woman? And what did she see in the poor girl that no one else did? Sit back and find out as we begin this shocking and touching story. This is the heart-touching story of a poor girl named Lucy. She was just an attendant in a big shopping mall, alone in the world, struggling to survive. But everything changed the day she helped an old woman at work, not knowing that the woman was actually the mother of her billionaire boss. What began as a simple act of kindness soon opened a door to a life she never imagined. One morning Lucy stood at the entrance of the big shopping mall in Lagos wearing her orange uniform and a name tag that read, Lucy Attendant. The sun was hot, and the noise from the busy street outside filled the air. People rushed in and out of the mall carrying shopping bags and looking busy. But Lucy, she just smiled. It was only her third week on the job. Inside she moved from one corner of the store to another, arranging items on the shelves, helping customers find things. No one would guess the pain she carried in her heart. Not from the way she smiled, not from the way she greeted people with kindness. But behind that smile was a story, a deep one. She had no one. Her parents died the year before in a terrible accident. Since then Lucy had been on her own. No brothers, no sisters, just her and the tiny room she rented in a poor part of Lagos. One part of the roof leaked when it rained. The window didn't close properly. And to make matters worse, at night she could hear rats moving in the ceiling. Still, every morning Lucy woke up before sunrise, cleaned herself up, and went to work like nothing was wrong. Lucy sat alone on the small bench behind the shopping mall during her lunch break. Her hands held a cold bottle of water, but she wasn't drinking it. She just stared at the floor. The noise from the street was far away now. Everything felt quiet. She had been thinking again, thinking about school, about the life she once had. Just 1 year ago she was in her second year at the university. She wanted to become a doctor. She loved helping people. That dream kept her going. It gave her hope. But when her parents died, everything ended. She could not pay school fees anymore. No money for food. No money for books. She had to drop out. Lucy blinked fast and looked up at the sky. I tried, she whispered. I really tried. Her voice shook a little. She remembered the day she left school. She packed her things in one small bag. Her roommate cried. Her lecturer called her name, asking her to stay strong. But there was nothing they could do. Lucy had no relatives who were financially capable or willing to help with her education. Since then she had been doing small jobs to survive. First, she sold fruits by the roadside. Then she washed clothes for people. And now this job at the mall. Suddenly she checked her wristwatch. Her break was over. Lucy stood up slowly, wiped her eyes, and put on her smile again. But deep inside, her heart was still heavy. She wanted to go back to school. She wanted a better life. She wanted more than this. And yet she said nothing, because in this city, people had their own problems. No one had time to listen. She walked back into the mall, her smile shining again like the sun. But only she knew that smile was covering a deep, quiet pain. Mr. Felix Badmoss sat in his father's chair, the same chair his late father, Mr. Anthony Badmoss, used for over 30 years. The office was quiet. A soft breeze came through the open window. He was now the CEO of Badmoss and Company. It wasn't something he planned. It came after his father died. Felix was young, rich, and smart. But his father had taught him something very important. Never draw too much attention. Keep your life simple. His father always said, when people don't know too much about you, you are safer. Felix listened. Even now, as a billionaire, he didn't live loud. No one outside the company really knew who he was. He dressed simple. He moved quietly. He didn't show off. To the public, he was just another regular man. But inside, he carried a big name and an even bigger responsibility. Mrs. Agnes Badmoss was the mother of Felix. A calm and wise woman in her 60s. She had stayed strong through many storms, the biggest being the death of her husband, Mr. Anthony Badmoss. Now she lived with her only son Felix in their quiet mansion. One evening, she sat on the long sofa in the living room, holding a glass of fruit juice. The room was peaceful. Felix walked in. "Good evening, Mom," he said with a gentle smile. She looked at him, shook her head slowly, and said, "Felix, sit down. We need to talk." He sat beside her, already knowing what was coming. She stared at him. "You're always working, always talking business. But what about your life, Felix? When will you bring home a woman? A good girl I can call my daughter?" Felix smiled. "Mom, I'm trying. It's not easy to find someone real." Mrs. Agnes placed her cup on the table. "You're not a boy anymore. I want to see you happy. I want to hold my grandchildren." "I know," Felix said quietly. "And I promise I'm doing my best. I just need time." She nodded slowly. "Just make sure she's kind. That's all I ask." Felix smiled again, but deep in his heart, he was worried too. How would he know who truly loved him, not just his name? It was a hot afternoon. The shopping mall where Lucy worked was busy as usual. People moved in and out carrying bags and chatting. An old woman walked in quietly. She wore a plain dress. Her slippers made soft sounds on the floor. She looked tired, but she walked fast. She went straight to the shelf and picked one small bottle of cooking oil. At the counter, she smiled and placed the bottle down. "I'm in a hurry, please," she said gently. "I need to get home before the rain starts." The cashier, a young lady with loud chewing gum in her mouth, looked at her and frowned. "Madam, your money." The woman paused. She checked her pockets. Then her face changed. "Oh no," she said slowly. "I didn't bring my purse. I must have left it at home. I'm so sorry, my daughter. Let me rush back and bring it." The cashier scoffed. Ah. So you came here to waste my time? You don't have money and you're standing in front of my counter?" The people in the line turned to look. The old woman tried to explain again. "Please, I didn't mean to forget. I just needed the oil for cooking." The cashier raised her voice. "Who sent you? You think this is a charity home? Look at you. No money but you came to shop. Madam, please shift." The woman's eyes dropped to the ground. Her hands shook. The people around began to whisper, but no one helped her. Lucy stood a few steps away, arranging items on a shelf. But she had heard the loud voice from the cashier. Her heart began to beat fast. She walked quickly to the counter and saw the older woman standing there, her eyes on the ground. People were still watching. The cashier was shaking her head and laughing with another worker. Lucy stepped forward. "What's going on here?" she asked. The cashier rolled her eyes. "This woman doesn't have money and she wants to buy oil. Can you imagine? She said she forgot her purse." Lucy turned to the older woman. "Ma, is this true?" The woman nodded slowly. "Yes, my dear. I'm not lying. I only needed one bottle. But I truly forgot my purse." Lucy felt something strong in her chest, sadness. She looked at the cashier and said calmly, "Give her the oil." The cashier blinked. "Give her?" "Yes," Lucy replied. "Remove the money from my salary." The cashier's mouth opened. "Your salary? For just this woman?" "Yes," Lucy said again. "It's just one bottle. It won't hurt me." The old woman looked up slowly. Her lips parted but no words came out. Her eyes were full. "Thank you, my child," she said, her voice shaking. "Thank you." Lucy smiled and took the oil, gently placing it into the woman's nylon bag. "It's okay, Ma. Just get home safe." Lucy was about to turn back to her shelf when she heard the older woman call out. "My dear," the woman said softly, "please wait." Lucy turned around and walked back to her. "Yes, Ma." The woman looked into Lucy's eyes. "You didn't have to do what you did, but you did it anyway." "Why?" Lucy smiled gently. "Because you needed help, Ma. That's all." The woman nodded slowly like someone thinking deeply. Then she said, "What's your name, my child?" "Lucy," she replied. "Lucy," the woman repeated, smiling now. "That's a lovely name." Lucy chuckled. "Thank you, Ma." "My name is Agnes," the woman said. Lucy smiled again. "It's nice to meet you." Agnes placed her hand gently on Lucy's arm and said, "God bless you. You have a kind heart. I won't forget this." She held the bottle of oil close to her chest and walked slowly toward the exit, but the look on her face was not the same as before. This time she was smiling. Lucy stood still for a moment watching her go. Something about that woman felt different. Mrs. Agnes walked into the house still holding the bottle of cooking oil. Her face was quiet, but her eyes looked like she was thinking about something. Felix was sitting on the sofa typing on his laptop. The moment he saw her, he looked up. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked. "You look different." "What happened?" Mrs. Agnes sat down slowly beside him. She held the oil bottle on her lap and took a deep breath. "Felix, I went to the mall," she began. "Just to pick one bottle of oil, but I forgot my purse at home." Felix raised his eyebrows. And then she looked at him. "The cashier insulted me in front of everyone. She spoke to me like I was nothing, like I was a beggar." Felix's face became serious. "What? Which mall?" She paused. "The new one. The one you told me your company just acquired a stake in." Felix's jaw tightened. "How could they treat you like that?" Mrs. Agnes touched his hand. "Calm down. Let me finish." While I was standing there trying to explain myself, a young girl came forward. She asked what was going on. When she heard my story, she told the cashier to give me the oil and to remove the money from her own salary. Felix's eyes widened. "She did that?" "Yes," Mrs. Agnes said with a smile. "She was like an angel. So simple, so kind." I asked for her name. "What's her name?" Felix asked. "Lucy," she replied. "Her name is Lucy." Felix leaned back, staring at the ceiling for a second. His mind was already working fast. He stood up from the sofa. His hands were tight by his side. His face had changed. He was no longer calm. "Mom, how can someone insult you like that in a company I have a stake in?" he said, his voice strong. Mrs. Agnes touched his arm gently. "Felix, I was very hurt. But I don't want you to be angry. There was something good that came out of it." Felix turned to her. "Lucy, right?" She nodded. "Yes, that girl. She didn't know who I was, but she stood up for me. She even offered to pay for the oil with her own money. People like her are rare." Felix was still upset, but he listened closely. I want to meet her again, Agnes said softly. I want to thank her and do something for her. She has a good heart. Felix nodded slowly. You will meet her again, Mom. I promise you that. He paused, then added. But the cashier who insulted you, I won't leave her like that. I'll handle it myself. Agnes looked at him with gentle eyes. Please don't go too far. At the counter, she smiled and placed the bottle down. I'm in a hurry, please, she said gently. I need to get home before the rain starts. The cashier, a young lady with loud chewing gum in her mouth, looked at her and frowned. Madam, your money. The woman paused. She checked her pockets. Then her face changed. Oh no, she said slowly. I didn't bring my purse. I must have left it at home. I'm so sorry, my daughter. Let me rush back and bring it. The cashier scoffed. Ah. So you came here to waste my time? You don't have money and you're standing in front of my counter? The people in the line turned to look. The old woman tried to explain again. Please, I didn't mean to forget. I just needed the oil for cooking. The cashier raised her voice. Who sent you? You think this is a charity home? Look at you. No money but you came to shop. Madam, please shift. The woman's eyes dropped to the ground. Her hands shook. The people around began to whisper, but no one helped her. Lucy stood a few steps away, arranging items on a shelf. But she had heard the loud voice from the cashier. Her heart began to beat fast. She walked quickly to the counter and saw the older woman standing there, her eyes on the ground. People were still watching. The cashier was shaking her head and laughing with another worker. Lucy stepped forward. What's going on here? She asked. The cashier rolled her eyes. This woman doesn't have money and she wants to buy oil. Can you imagine? She said she forgot her purse. Lucy turned to the older woman. Ma, is this true? The woman nodded slowly. Yes, my dear. I'm not lying. I only needed one bottle. But I truly forgot my purse. Lucy felt something strong in her chest, sadness. She looked at the cashier and said calmly, Give her the oil. The cashier blinked. Give her? Yes, Lucy replied. Remove the money from my salary. The cashier's mouth opened. Your salary? For just this woman? Yes, Lucy said again. It's just one bottle. It won't hurt me. The old woman looked up slowly. Her lips parted but no words came out. Her eyes were full. Thank you, my child, she said, her voice shaking. Thank you. Lucy smiled and took the oil, gently placing it into the woman's nylon bag. It's okay, Ma. Just get home safe. Lucy was about to turn back to her shelf when she heard the older woman call out. My dear, the woman said softly, please wait. Lucy turned around and walked back to her. Yes, Ma. The woman looked into Lucy's eyes. You didn't have to do what you did, but you did it anyway. Why? Lucy smiled gently. Because you needed help, Ma. That's all. The woman nodded slowly like someone thinking deeply. Then she said, What's your name, my child? Lucy, she replied. Lucy, the woman repeated, smiling now. That's a lovely name. Lucy chuckled. Thank you, Ma. My name is Agnes, the woman said. Lucy smiled again. It's nice to meet you. Agnes placed her hand gently on Lucy's arm and said, God bless you. You have a kind heart. I won't forget this. She held the bottle of oil close to her chest and walked slowly toward the exit, but the look on her face was not the same as before. This time she was smiling. Lucy stood still for a moment watching her go. Something about that woman felt different. Mrs. Agnes walked into the house still holding the bottle of cooking oil. Her face was quiet, but her eyes looked like she was thinking about something. Felix was sitting on the sofa typing on his laptop. The moment he saw her, he looked up. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked. "You look different. What happened?" Mrs. Agnes sat down slowly beside him. She held the oil bottle on her lap and took a deep breath. "Felix, I went to the mall," she began. "Just to pick one bottle of oil, but I forgot my purse at home." Felix raised his eyebrows. And then she looked at him. "The cashier insulted me in front of everyone. She spoke to me like I was nothing, like I was a beggar." Felix's face became serious. "What? Which mall?" She paused. "The new one. The one you told me your company just acquired a stake in." Felix's jaw tightened. "How could they treat you like that?" Mrs. Agnes touched his hand. "Calm down. Let me finish." While I was standing there trying to explain myself, a young girl came forward. She asked what was going on. When she heard my story, she told the cashier to give me the oil and to remove the money from her own salary. Felix's eyes widened. "She did that?" "Yes," Mrs. Agnes said with a smile. "She was like an angel. So simple, so kind. I asked for her name." "What's her name?" Felix asked. "Lucy," she replied. "Her name is Lucy." Felix leaned back, staring at the ceiling for a second. His mind was already working fast. He stood up from the sofa. His hands were tight by his side. His face had changed. He was no longer calm. "Mom, how can someone insult you like that in a company I have a stake in?" he said, his voice strong. Mrs. Agnes touched his arm gently. "Felix, I was very hurt. But I don't want you to be angry. There was something good that came out of it." Felix turned to her. "Lucy, right?" She nodded. "Yes, that girl. She didn't know who I was, but she stood up for me. She even offered to pay for the oil with her own money. People like her are rare." Felix was still upset, but he listened closely. "I want to meet her again," Agnes said softly. "I want to thank her and do something for her. She has a good heart." Felix nodded slowly. "You will meet her again, Mom. I promise you that." He paused, then added. "But the cashier who insulted you, I won't leave her like that. I'll handle it myself." Agnes looked at him with gentle eyes. "Please don't go too far." She forgot. Lucy listened closely. "So I said to myself, let me rush to the nearby mall and get it myself," Agnes continued. "I wore my dress quickly and left. But when I got to the counter to pay..." She stopped and looked into Lucy's eyes. "I found out I didn't carry my debit card." Lucy's eyes widened. "I felt ashamed," Agnes said softly. "The people around me were looking. The cashier was already upset. I didn't know what to do." Lucy looked down, remembering that moment. Agnes reached out and held Lucy's hand. "Then you came," she said gently. "You didn't laugh. You didn't ask much questions. You just stepped forward and helped me. That act of kindness, it touched my heart." Lucy's eyes began to shine with tears, but she smiled softly. "I didn't do anything big, Ma," she said quietly. Agnes shook her head. "To you maybe it was small, but to me it was everything." There was a short silence. The room felt calm but full of meaning. Then Agnes said, "That's why I brought you here. I want to do something for you too." Lucy looked up, surprised. Agnes looked at Lucy with a soft smile. She reached for her hand again. "My dear," Agnes said gently, "people like you are very rare. Many would have stood by and watched me being humiliated, but you helped me with a kind heart." Lucy lowered her eyes, feeling shy. Agnes stood up and walked to a small table nearby. She opened a drawer and brought out a brown envelope in a small box. She came back and sat beside Lucy. "I know you didn't ask for anything," Agnes said. "But please take this. It's just a small gift to say thank you." She handed Lucy the envelope. Lucy opened it slowly. Her eyes widened. Inside was a bundle of cash. Then Agnes opened the box. Inside it was a shining gold chain and a bracelet. "These belonged to me when I was younger," Agnes said. "They are very special to me. But I want you to have them." Lucy's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the money. She looked at the jewelry. Then she gently pushed them back to Agnes. "No, Ma," she said softly. "I didn't help you because I wanted anything. I just saw someone in need and did what I could." Agnes looked at her, surprised. "Are you sure?" she asked. Lucy nodded. "Yes, Ma. I have seen hard times too. I know what it feels like when you're in trouble and no one helps." There was a deep silence in the room. Agnes held the envelope and box close to her chest. She was touched. "You are different, Lucy," she said quietly. "Very different." Lucy just smiled, her eyes still wet. Felix had been standing quietly by the door. He had seen everything. He saw Lucy's face when she refused the gifts. He heard her words, and now he was staring at her like he had just seen something he didn't expect. Slowly, he walked into the living room. Agnes turned, her face bright with joy. "Oh, Felix," she said. "Come and meet the kind girl I told you about. This is Lucy." Lucy turned to see who had walked in. Her mouth fell open a little. Her eyes widened. It was Felix, the same Felix she had seen on TV and in newspapers. The same young man known all over the city for his big businesses and quiet ways. She stood up quickly. "Good evening, sir," she said, bowing her head. Felix nodded with a small smile. "Good evening," he said. "So you're the girl who helped my mom at the mall?" Lucy nodded, still standing. "I watched you just now," Felix said, moving closer. "Why did you reject the money and the jewelry?" Lucy looked at him, then at Agnes, then back at Felix. Her voice was calm. "I didn't help her because I wanted a reward," she said. "I helped because it was the right thing to do. That day I saw someone in need. I had a means, so I helped. That's all." Felix stared at her. He didn't speak right away. He just nodded slowly. "I see," he said quietly. Then he sat across from them, his eyes still fixed on her. Mrs. Agnes looked at Lucy with soft eyes. "But why are you rejecting my gift?" she asked again, her voice low and gentle. Lucy sat still for a moment. Then she looked at Agnes and spoke from her heart. "Kindness is not meant to be paid for. I believe in hard work, Ma. If I work with my hands, I will know that I truly earned what I got. That way I can be proud of my strength." Felix, who had been watching her quietly, smiled. He leaned forward. "In that case," he said, "I want to offer you a job." Lucy turned to look at him, eyes wide. "Yes," he continued. "Come work as my personal assistant at the company's head office. The job comes with a house and a good salary." Lucy's mouth opened a little. Her heart began to beat fast. "A job?" she asked slowly, almost in a whisper. Felix nodded. But suddenly Lucy's smile faded. She looked down. Agnes noticed it at once. What happened? She asked. You don't like to work for my son? Lucy shook her head quickly. No, Ma, it's not that, she said. It's just. I didn't finish school. After my parents died, I had to stop. So I don't think I have the papers needed for such a big job. Felix sat up straight. You don't need to worry about that, he said. Lucy looked at him. He smiled and spoke kindly. You will go through a simple training program before you start work. And I will also enroll you into an online university. You can learn from home at your own pace, but only if you want to. Lucy's eyes filled with tears of joy. Yes, she said. Yes, I want that. But after a moment she paused. Her voice became quiet. But why are you doing all this for me? She asked. You don't even know me. Felix looked at her and smiled again. I may not know you fully, he said. But I saw what you did at the mall. You helped a stranger without asking for anything. Then you refused money and gold. That kind of heart is rare. He paused. Then he looked at her again and said, I have a confession to make, he said, his voice calm. Lucy looked up at him. After my mother told me what you did for her at the mall, I asked my personal guard to do a little background check on you, just to find out more so I'd know how best to reward you. He raised his hand slightly. Please, I didn't do it with any bad intention. Lucy said nothing. She just listened. And when I read your file, he added, I saw how much pain you've gone through. You lost both parents, yet you're still standing strong. He looked at her straight in the eyes. You helped my mother on her worst day. Now let us help you on your best. Lucy was quiet. She held her chest and nodded slowly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ma, she said softly. Lucy walked into the office every morning with a smile on her face. Her steps were calm. Her hands always carried her files, and her eyes looked ready for the day. As Felix's personal assistant, she was doing more than just well. She was perfect. She arranged his files. She answered his calls. She reminded him of every meeting. Not once did she forget a single thing. After work hours, she would go back to her staff apartment. But instead of resting, she opened her laptop and joined her online classes. She studied late into the night, even after a long day at work. Felix didn't know any of this at first. But one day, his driver told him she often carried books around and barely ever went out unless it was for work. That made him more curious. He began to notice her more, the way she smiled when she talked, the calm way she answered even the toughest questions. Felix didn't know when it started, but soon he found himself looking at her longer than usual. He started walking past her desk for no reason. He would stop just to ask, "How is your day going?" Sometimes he asked her the same question twice. One day after a long meeting, Felix stayed back in his office. Lucy came in to hand him a file. As she turned to leave, he stopped her. "Lucy," he said. She turned. "Yes, sir." He smiled. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. Felix looked at her, his voice soft. "How did you become so good at your job? You've only been here for a short time, but it feels like you've been doing this for years." Lucy paused. She blinked twice, then walked back slowly and sat on the chair across from him. "I had no choice," she said. Felix leaned forward slightly. "After my parents died, I had to grow up fast. I did many small jobs at a shop, in people's houses, even as a cashier. Every job taught me something. I watched people. I listened. I learned." Felix nodded slowly. She continued, "And I told myself if I ever get the chance to work in a big office like this, I won't mess it up. I'll give it my all. Felix looked at her, quiet for a moment. His heart beat faster, but he didn't show it. You're doing more than giving your all, he said softly. You're amazing. Lucy smiled and looked down. Thank you, sir. Felix smiled too. But deep down he knew this was no longer just about work. Something was changing. Mrs. Agnes sat on the couch in the living room holding a warm cup of tea. The TV was on. But she wasn't watching it. She was thinking. She had noticed something. Every time Lucy came to the house, either to bring a file to Felix or to say hello, something changed in her son's face. The moment Lucy stepped through the door, Felix's eyes would brighten. His voice would soften. His smile would come even when he tried to hide it. Agnes had seen that kind of look before. It was the same look Felix's father gave her many years ago when he was falling in love. That evening after dinner Agnes walked gently to Felix's room. She knocked once. Come in, he said. She stepped inside slowly. Felix was sitting on his bed typing on his laptop. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. Mommy, everything okay? He asked. Agnes sat beside him. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Felix, she said gently, can I talk to you for a moment? He closed the laptop. Of course, Mommy. She looked at him closely. I've been watching you lately, she said, and I noticed something. Felix didn't speak. He just listened. I see the way your face lights up every time Lucy comes to the house, she continued. I see how you try to stay close to her even when she says she's going back to the office. Felix looked down, smiling quietly. He didn't even try to deny it. You're right, Mommy, he said. I like her. I really do. Agnes nodded slowly. I knew it, she said. And I'm happy. Felix looked at her, surprised. You are? Yes, she said. My son, Lucy is a rare kind of girl. She's respectful. She's calm. And she's not the kind that talks too much. She has a good heart. Women like that are not easy to find. Felix nodded again. I didn't plan for this, he said softly. But when I see her something in me just feels right. Agnes took his hand. Then don't hide it, she said. Talk to her. Tell her how you feel. Felix looked unsure. But what if she doesn't feel the same way? Agnes smiled. You will never know if you don't speak. And even if she says no, at least you will not carry the question in your heart forever. She stood up and walked toward the door. Then she paused and looked back at him. A lady like Lucy is hard to come by, she said, her voice firm. Please do not hesitate, my son. My greatest joy is to see you married to a good woman. Only then will I be at peace. Felix sat still. His heart was full. He watched the door long after his mother had left. He knew what he had to do. One early morning, Lucy walked into Felix's compound holding a brown envelope. Inside the envelope was an urgent report, something that needed his signature within a few hours. It had to be submitted before 9 a.m. and Felix was not due at the office until much later that day. It was about a big business deal they had been working on for weeks. She knocked on the door. A maid opened and let her in. Good morning, Ma, Lucy greeted as she saw Mrs. Agnes sitting on the couch. Agnes smiled warmly. Lucy, my dear, you're welcome. Please come in. Thank you, Ma, Lucy said, holding the envelope tightly. She was about to ask if Felix was around, but Mrs. Agnes stood up slowly and walked toward her. My son is in his room, she said. But before you go in, can I talk to you for a moment? Lucy nodded. Yes, Ma. Mrs. Agnes took her gently by the wrist and led her to sit beside her on the couch. Lucy was surprised but she didn't show it. Agnes looked at her closely. Her eyes were calm but deep. "My dear," she began. "You've been coming here for a while now and every time you step in I see the peace you carry. You don't talk too much. You dress decently. You show respect. That is rare." Lucy smiled softly, unsure of what to say. Agnes continued. "I won't waste your time, Lucy. I want to ask you something. And please, I want you to answer me with an open heart." Lucy sat up straight. "Yes, Ma." Agnes took a deep breath then looked her in the eyes. "Would you ever consider marrying my son?" The words hit Lucy like cold water. She blinked. For a few seconds she didn't know if she heard right. "Ma," she said, her voice soft. Agnes smiled gently. "I mean it. Would you consider it? I've seen the way you talk to him. I've seen the way he looks at you. My son has not looked at any other woman that way in years." Lucy looked down at the envelope in her hand. Her heart was beating fast. She didn't expect this. Not now. Not like this. I don't know what to say, Ma," she replied quietly. "This is a surprise." "I understand," Agnes said, still holding her hand. "Take your time. You don't have to answer now. Just think about it. A woman like you is not easy to find." Lucy nodded slowly. "Okay, Ma. I'll think about it." Agnes smiled again and let go of her wrist. "Thank you, my dear," she said. Lucy stood up, still holding the envelope, her mind full. As she walked toward Felix's room, her heart was heavy with questions. Weeks later, Lucy sat alone in her office. Her eyes were on the computer screen but her mind had gone far. She was typing a report but then she stopped. A strange thought entered her head. Felix. She tried to shake it off but the thought became stronger. She leaned back on her chair staring at nothing. Could I really marry someone like Felix, she wondered. Her heart felt funny just thinking about it. She had always seen him as her boss. Smart, quiet and strong. He was not like other men. There was something different about him, something calm, something kind. But then a sad smile appeared on her face. She shook her head and whispered to herself, "Lucy, stop dreaming. What makes you think that a man like Felix would ever look your way?" She sighed, then tried to focus again. But just then a voice came from behind. "You talk to yourself now?" Felix said, smiling gently. Lucy jumped a little in her chair and turned to see him standing at the door. She laughed, trying to hide her surprise. "You startled me," she said. Felix walked in holding a file. "Sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to sneak in." Lucy smiled and stretched her hand to take the file from him. "Thanks," she said. But Felix didn't walk away. He stayed there watching her. She looked at him. "Is there anything else, sir?" Felix scratched the back of his head and gave a soft laugh. "It's Friday," he said. "Do you have any plans for this evening?" Lucy looked confused for a moment. "No, not really," she said slowly. "Good," Felix said, smiling. "Then maybe we can grab a glass of wine together. Nothing serious. Just to relax after this long week." Lucy blinked. For a second she thought she didn't hear him well but then she smiled. A playful, shy smile. She looked at him and said, "As long as you don't start talking about office reports over the wine, I think I'm safe." Felix laughed. "Deal," he said. They both laughed together, but deep inside Lucy felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. As Felix walked out of the office, she placed her hand on her chest. Her heart was beating fast. And this time, she didn't stop the smile that came to her lips. That evening, Lucy stepped into the restaurant with Felix. It was beautiful. The lights were soft. The tables were set with shining glasses. Gentle music played in the background. Felix had picked a table near the window. As they sat, the waiter came with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "Wow," Lucy said, looking around. "This place is fine. I've never been to this kind of place before." Felix smiled. "You deserve it," he said quietly. Throughout the evening he treated her with so much care. He listened when she spoke. He made her laugh. He didn't talk about work. Not even once. Then, as the waiter cleared their plates, Felix looked at her with calm eyes. "Lucy," he said gently. "I know this may sound fast, but I like you." Lucy froze for a moment. Her hand stopped halfway to her glass. "I've been thinking about this for a while," Felix continued. "And I didn't want to rush you, but tonight I had to say it. I want to be more than just your boss." Lucy looked down. Her heart was beating fast. She wasn't used to this. Then she looked at him again and smiled softly. "I like you too, Felix," she said. He smiled wide, but she raised her hand gently. Felix leaned in, listening closely. Lucy looked him in the eye and spoke softly. "You saw something in me when I didn't even see it in myself," she said. "You gave me a job when I didn't even qualify for it." She paused, her voice a little shaky. "You could have ignored me like everyone else. But you didn't. You didn't just give me a salary. You gave me a future. You paid for my school, Felix. You enrolled me in university without asking for anything in return." She smiled gently. "All those things, I'll never forget them. But that's not what made me like you." Felix looked at her quietly. She continued, "I like you because of who you are. You're kind. You're humble. You treat everyone with respect. Even with all your money, you act like a normal person. That's what touched me the most. But I want to tell you something important," she said. "I want to finish my degree first. It will take 2 years. I want to focus on that before thinking about children." Felix didn't even blink. "I understand," he said. "And I support you. You've worked so hard. I'll never stand in your way." She smiled in relief. But she added playfully, "That doesn't mean we can't get married now, right?" Felix laughed. "Of course not," he said. "Just don't expect me to help with your online exams." Lucy burst into laughter. "No promises," she said, lifting her glass. "I know you're good with school projects." They both laughed, clinking their glasses softly. And that night, something real began. Not just love but deep respect and understanding. When they got back home, Felix parked the car, stepped out and walked around to open the door for Lucy. She smiled and whispered, "Thank you." As they walked into the house, Mrs. Agnes was sitting in the living room watching TV and peeling some oranges. "Good evening, Ma," Lucy greeted her. "Good evening, my dear," Mrs. Agnes replied with a smile. Felix smiled and said, "Mom, I have something to tell you." Mrs. Agnes turned and looked at him. "What is it?" she asked, wiping her hands on a small towel. Felix held Lucy's hand and said, "Lucy has agreed to marry me." There was a short silence. Then Mrs. Agnes stood up so fast that Lucy took a small step back. "Jesus is Lord," she shouted with joy. "This is the best news I've heard in a long time." She hugged Lucy tightly, then turned and hugged Felix. "My son, you chose well," she said. "This girl is pure gold." Lucy was shy, but she smiled deeply. Her heart was full. Mrs. Agnes clapped her hands like a happy child. "We must celebrate this. I'll tell the chef to cook something small but special. This house must smell like joy tonight. Felix laughed. Mom, let's take you out for dinner instead. Tonight is not for cooking. Mrs. Agnes agreed quickly. Yes, let me change my clothes. I want to look fine too. Later that night, they all sat together in a quiet restaurant. They laughed, talked, and ate something light. The table was full, but Lucy's heart felt even fuller. She looked at the faces in front of her, Felix and his mom, both smiling at her like she had been part of them for ages. Right there in that moment, she knew a new chapter in her life had started. One filled with love, hope, and family. This story teaches us something deep and true. Kindness is never wasted, and real love is built on respect, not riches. Felix looked beyond Lucy's poor background. He saw her heart, her strength, and her future. And Lucy, even when life pushed her down, didn't give up. She held on, worked hard, and stayed true to herself. Here's the big lesson: when you help others without expecting anything back, you plant seeds that grow into blessings. And when you believe in yourself, even when no one else does, your life can turn around in ways you never imagined. What do you think about this story? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. I would really love to read from you. Also, there's another very interesting story I'll be uploading in just a few days. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when it drops. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Let more people be inspired by stories like this. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you always. See you in the next story.